friends, and welcome to the last episode of Wargaming from Zero. Today we will be working on the weathering and the base of our contemptor dreadnought. And for this we'll be using some of the most iconic products from AK Interactive, from liquid pigments to the weathering pencils. So if you want to see how they work, follow me. We're back in the studio and here is our dreadnought contemptor. We'll continue where we left off in our previous video. First of all, we'll start with green brown and do some chipping on our model. We'll mark some areas where we'll later continue creating more imperfections. For chipping, as always, we'll focus on the edges and the areas that will be more prone to receiving damages during a battle or simply while using these vehicles. Moreover, remember that we can use the tip of the brush to imitate scratches on the paint. The best approach to the weathering process is to work on our model by areas. So, we'll apply the same technique that we've used on the leg all over the model. After a couple of minutes, we have finished painting our model with the first color, and we can now proceed with the next one, which is leather brown. The process with this color is very similar to the previous one. Although to create more contrast, we will reduce the application area, so that there are still parts where we can see the color we've used previously. Keep in mind not to overdo it with chipping. We have more weathering techniques that we want to try on this model, and if we do too much chipping now, the overall results may not be as satisfactory. The next step is to use streaking grime. If you don't know this product yet, its function is to create effects imitating streaks of dirt and grime, and it is very easy to use. We just need to apply it and let it dry for a couple of minutes. We can also help out the product, indicating the areas where we want to create the streaks of dirt. After letting it dry, we'll need the white spirit and a flat paintbrush. And we're going to blend the stains we've previously created. As you can see, this effect is very simple and it gives us great results. And remember that there are different tones that you can choose from, and you can combine them as well in order to create different weathering effects very easily. Next, we'll be working with the liquid pigments, specifically dark rust dust. We will dilute it slightly with white spirit. Then we'll apply it to the model by creating small patches over the surface. This will be the perfect base to later build upon with more processes and techniques. Just like we did with the streaking grime, if we want to retouch any area, we can use white spirit. This method is also a very simple way to create streaks of rust. If we observe rust in real life, we'll notice that the color tone can range from red or dark brown all the way to bright orange, just like this light rust dust. We'll repeat the process from before, but this time we decrease the application area so that the color from before can still be seen. Afterwards, we separate the dreadnought from the base. Don't worry, here is the missing foot. We've printed an STL file using a 3D printer, but obviously this step is totally optional. We'll glue the resin onto the base with cyanoacrylate glue. This kind of glue dries extremely fast, so a moment later we already have the base ready for painting. And we'll prime it using the fine primer in color black. Next, with 𝗪𝗪𝗥𝗚𝗚𝗚, we'll paint the base coat of the stone. You'll see how we can paint stones and rock quickly and easily using the dry brush technique. As you can see, first we make sure to cover the entire surface with the base coat. Once dry, we'll use the dry brush number 4 and apply a coat of paint mixing together 𝗪𝗪𝗥𝗚𝗚 and basalt grey. When using the dry brush technique, we must make sure to remove the most of the paint on a paper towel or a similar surface. And then we apply the paint with small strokes to highlight the edges of the objects. As you can see, with a couple of strokes the objects are defined more clearly. So the next step will be to create highlights with graphite. The application process is the same as before. The dry brush technique is perfect for painting bases or a bigger number of models in a short amount of time, so keep it in mind, especially for those cases. Now we'll continue the highlighting process with grimy grey and ash grey, although this time we'll pay more attention to the most prominent edges. And as you can observe, this is all that we really need if we want to paint rocks or concrete quickly. Now we'll use ash grey for painting the first marble tile. This color will give us a great base for painting the tile in white afterwards. We've painted the two opposing tiles and next we'll paint the muddy area by the marble tiles using leather brown. For contrast, we'll give it a coat of burnt umber ink on top. When the ink has dried, we'll go back to leather brown, but this time apply it with a dry brush. It's important to do this first before painting the marble if we don't want to damage or stain it. We'll highlight the edges with a mixture of grimy grey and leather brown. Next, we'll finish our marble tiles. We'll give a coat of grimy grey over the tiles that we previously painted with ash grey. Now the marble looks much more realistic. And we'll paint this metal beam on the side of the base with gunmetal. With brass, we'll paint the cartridges that appear in this case, as well as the used shells that are lying around on the ground. We'll paint the ammo case with Russian green to give it a more military-looking aspect. And to finish our marble tiles, we'll use the white weathering pencil on the black tiles, painting irregular lines to imitate marble veins. And we'll do the same thing on the white tiles, this time using the dark grey pencil. Remember that if for whatever reason you don't like the result, you can remove the pencil lines with a wet brush. Continuing with the weathering pencils, we'll use concrete marks to highlight a little more the edges of the stone steps. As you can observe, these pencils are a great tool for highlights and outlines. Finally, we'll outline the edges of the ammo box with light green pencil. Now that our base is basically finished, It's time to take a look at the Waeathering Pencil Techniques book. This book will provide us with ideas of how we can use these pencils for rust effects on black surfaces of our model. So, having an idea of what we want to do, we'll start with chipping color, creating chipping and scratches, just like we did on the green parts. For thinner lines, we just need to sharpen the pencil more to create a finer tip, and for wider lines, we use up the pencil to make the tip more dull. Next, we'll use red primer pencil to paint around the screws and create drips. We'll continue with bigger dripping lines using medium rust. These will serve as a perfect base for working up more rust colors. As we said before, we're continuing with rust effects, switching to light rust pencil. Remember that the rust effects can range from small dots to bigger lines, all the way to areas thoroughly corroded by rust. We'll finish this process with strong ochre, being very careful not to overdo it with this effect. The next step is to blend in these colors using a paintbrush we've wetted in some water. In this case, we are using vertical strokes to simulate the natural movements of rust and dirt dragged by water on a vehicle in real life. With light green pencil, we'll outline some of the edges, but this step is completely optional. It's just to show you one more possibility for the AK Interactive Waeathering pencils. Now let's see how we can imitate mud and dirt using these pencils. As you can see, we are using only 3 colors. We'll wet the pencil in water before starting to apply the colors in small dots in different spots of the base. Depending on the amount of water we use, the pigmentation will be stronger or weaker. But you'll see that when these spots have dried, the results will be great. Next, we'll use streaking dirt pencil. This color is more mustardy and it contrasts nicely with the previous color. And last but not least, we'll use chipping color to create darker patches. Now the scene will get a little gory, as we'll be imitating splashes of blood with a mixture of red and medium rust. We'll use the tips of the pencils, chopping them into bits and mixing the pieces with a paintbrush. We've also decided to add some red primer. Then, with the help of an airbrush, we can splash the paint over the base, creating splatters of blood. And with the paintbrush, we can create a trail of blood, as if exiting the crime scene before placing the dreadnought onto the base. We'll add the cannon arm, gluing it with the cyanoacrylate glue. Then we'll paint the lenses, starting with shadow flash. We'll be sure to cover the lens completely with this color. With the next color, deep red, we'll paint just a strip in the middle of the lens. Next up is volcanic yellow, and we'll use this color on the side nearest to the nose to imitate reflection. Finally, we'll add dots of off-white for maximum reflection and liveliness of the lenses. And for the final touches on our dreadnought, we'll need the dry brush number 2 and burnt grease to make the tips of the autocannon dirtier. And that's it! With these final touches, we can consider our dreadnought contenter finished. We hope that you learned a lot with this series. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow AK Interactive on your favorite social media to stay up to date on the latest news. Well friends, this is the end for our Wargaming from Zero series. But don't worry, there are more surprises on the way, so stay up to date on AK Interactive's news by following them on the different social media. And I'll see you very soon. Until the next time!